She shows it is not committed to bringing it back on stream. The factory remains idle despite efforts by the Mahama administration to revive it in 2016. Jojo Kobna visited the Commander Sugar Factory and filed this report.
In fact, Uncle, oya tete oya yao. Me again nipa. Samutwa mu na factory sie jana.
In fact, I'm frustrated. I'm unemployed. My wife is divorcing me because I can't take care of my family. Every day I walk past this factory, I get angry. Didn't we use money to build this factory? For 2 years, it's puzzling that we can't find investors.
Isaac Kweku Nketia, a resident of Commander, is angry that the Commander Sugar Factory, reopened in 2016, remains idle. What upsets him even more is the rusted state of the factory due to inactivity and lack of maintenance. The well-coated and painted metal plates now look brownish, corroding as the day goes by.
The
factory is rusting away. At least the machine should have been painted every 6 months. I'm sure government will spend a lot of money to repair it.
I spend more money onto it. It's I know of course financial loss to the state.
For now, sugarcane cultivated to feed the factory are channeled to Akpatashi distillers.
The sugarcane cultivated to feed the sugar factory is now feeding Akpatashi distillers. Frustrated people have taken to drinking.
3 weeks ago, President Nana Akufo-Addo said his government would soon find investors to put the factory to work.
Ministry of Trade and Industry, strategic investor.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry is still looking for investors. We are reorganizing the operations of the factory.
For the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized.
Very soon, you hear something good from us.
But some residents do not find the president's statement assuring.
The investors, because they are politics.
I don't trust the president. I don't live with him at the Flagstaff House. It's just politics. Politicians always deceive us. We vote for them and they fail to honor their promises.
Politicians are more time. What back and some of the dead or the chain, what kind of
While the factory remains closed, it is estimated that sugar worth $200 million is imported to feed beverage and manufacturing industries and for domestic use. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Well, we've been speaking to the Information Minister designate, Kojo Nkrumah, who has reiterated assurances by the President that a strategic investor is being sought for to revive the company. He's also been giving an update on government's One District, One Factory program at a media briefing today.
It must be stated that government has not said that it will or the state will build these factories on its own. We have insisted consistently that we will work with the private sector, we'll collaborate with the private sector, we'll facilitate the work of the private sector in building these factories. 18 factories have been accredited so far. An additional 50 are expected to be accredited before the end of this year. And this should bring to almost 70 the 1D, 1F projects by the end of this year, 2018. It's not the business of government to be doing business. The business of government is to create that enabling environment and to encourage the private sector to go there. As was mentioned by the Trades and Industries Minister, the Commander Sugar Factory requires a private sector partner with capitalization that would ensure that, for example, outgrowers, raw materials, etc., are regularly available to feed it. That requires its own funding and the things associated with it. And the ministry is going through the process of finding the necessary investors who will be able to take on that risk and run in that space. And when we have a new update, we'll make it available.
So the former Trades Minister, Dr. Ekospi Gabra, finds that explanation untenable. He says he's not impressed with how government is rolling out its industrialization agenda. He's been speaking to my colleague Joseph Akable.
In my own estimation, we need about $70,000 a day to run
We'll get to hear from Dr. Ekos Piogabra shortly, but a contractor who also worked on the defunct Commander Sugar Factory says it will need about $70,000 a day to run effectively. Perry Mensah, who is the CEO of Perryland Company Limited, is urging government to be bold and invest in it instead of just looking for private sector investments. But we can go back and hear from Dr. Ekos Piogabra, but first let's hear from the CEO.
In my own estimation, we need about $70,000 a day to run that factory. You understand? If we are buying the sugarcane from farmers and so forth, and we don't have our own plantation, then we need that amount of money, which translates into something around 17 to about 21 million per annum.
Well, with 15 and 40% margins, you must be very baffled that no private investor has stepped forward to take over the factory.
Yeah, because, you see, let me ask the question. You cannot sell a vehicle that is not running. The vehicle is there, and then you tell somebody that, oh, you are selling your vehicle, and the person doesn't know whether the vehicle will run or it will not run. Because, you see, if we are able to start this factory and let it run, even if we do a test run for 3 months, and then it starts commercial production, and people begin to see that Commander Sugar Factory is producing sugar, tomorrow, if you put in the papers that you need investors, I'm sure there will be private investors in Ghana who will be interested to take over.
Then it sounds like you disagree with what the Information Minister Designate was saying, that government is not in the business of doing business, and that they simply want to create an enabling environment.
No, that is true, because I was talking about PPP. If you see, we want to do a PPP. This is a new thing we have gone for a loan for, and we say that there is another loan that can help people to produce the sugar. Yet, you see, all we hear about this factory is the bad side of it. Do you think that if you're an investor and you always hear that, oh, Commander Sugar Factory is not working, Commander Sugar Factory is so and so, will you put your money in? So to prove to people that this is a good factory that can work, and therefore they should come and put money in, government can do that. Initially, when we were doing the test run, it was government. Government can do a test run for 3 months. Prove to people that, yes, the factory can actually work and it has produced sugar. And then people who are interested will come in.
Well, we can now hear from Dr. Ekos Piogabra. He was the Trade and Industry Minister when the factory was built. In fact, it was built under his watch. Well, he's been speaking today to my colleague Joseph Akable, and he's not impressed with how government is dealing with this particular challenge, but also rolling out its industrialization agenda.
The industrialization agenda doesn't make sense if you have a factory sitting down already, like Commander Sugar Factory, which simply needs government prioritization and government focus to work. And the government is not allowing you to work. That cannot be a basis for saying that the country is serious about industrialization. One district, one factory, after 18 months, not one factory has been built and not one factory is producing. So there may be 10, 20 factories that they are trying to build. It shows a slow progress in this matter because the whole one district, one factory initiative was apparently lodged in a certain ministry that reported to the presidency, rather than possibly being lodged at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, where the right experts and civil servants who have the right orientation are located. So that may have slowed down the One District, One Factory initiative, for example. And so due to all of that, one cannot say that NPP have begun on any serious industrialization agenda.
On Commander, they say they are looking for a strategic partner to take over.
I handed over to the NPP one strategic partner that was already willing to pay $25 million to own 70% of Commander Sugar Factory, and a list of other potential investors from Mauritius, from the UK, from Brazil, from India. I don't know what they did with that list. They seem to think anybody who was working or talking to the NDC is somehow colored politically, and so they must go and look for their own new human beings. But they are not.
Do I get a sense that you suggest that you feel that it's more than just what we are seeing on the air that is causing the factory to remain idle, perhaps?
Of course, without any question. NPP have chosen not to make it a priority. If they have made it a priority, they should tell us how much in the budget for the Ministry of Trade and Industry they put for maintaining the Commander Sugar Factory. You as a media person, go and do the research. Did they budget 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million cedis to support what needs to be done for the factory to work, or is zero?
And that's Dr. Ekos Piogabra there.
Now, the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC, has tonight descended heavily on the Ghana Revenue Authority for failing to trace over $9 billion worth of unaccounted gold exports to Dubai and Switzerland. President Akufo-Addo, you recall, in January this year, revealed that about $5 billion worth of gold were unaccounted for from Ghana to United Arab Emirates.
And these were gold exports that went from Ghana to United Arab Emirates. Swiss ambassador to Ghana, Roland Fisher, and said Switzerland, for example, also imported over $2 billion worth of gold from Ghana in 2016 alone. But guess what? Official records show that Ghana in that year exported only $2 billion worth of gold during the year. And the review, chairman of PIAC, Dr. Steve Matial, says it's unacceptable that over a year since that disclosure was made, there hasn't been any evidence to establish the leakages and the exporters behind it.
I think it was sometime this year that the Swiss ambassador to Ghana disclosed that Switzerland alone imported last year some $2 billion worth of gold from Ghana. In the same year, the vice president has also indicated that during a visit to Dubai, officials of Dubai informed him that they actually imported about $7 billion worth of gold from Ghana. So between Dubai and Switzerland alone, Ghana has exported some $9 billion worth of gold. However, our official statistics show that during the period under review, we exported less than $2 billion worth of gold. This raises serious concerns and suggests to me that some of our gold production are going out through unapproved channels. So when the news broke out, I expected that our customs official will take urgent steps to investigate the matter. The way, in my view, you do this is to trace the transaction backward. So I would expect that our customs officials will get in touch with their counterparts in these countries, in Dubai and Switzerland, and then try to obtain further information from them in terms of which companies imported the gold into these countries. Now, based on the import documentation, it will be possible to trace who the exporters from Ghana were. So then once you get data on those in Ghana who did the exports, then you try to take it further by trying to find out how the exports were done, such that it was not captured by official government data. That way you are able to establish the loophole in the system, plug it, and make sure that these things do not reoccur.
Does it suggest that Customs hasn't done that?
Customs officials have failed to do any such investigation on the matter, and that is for me worrying.
Going forward, how do we block these loopholes? Because it's a lot of money that Ghana is losing.
The only way you can block the loopholes is to be able to understand how these exports are done.
Well, we'll be hearing shortly from the former chief executive of the Minerals Commission, Tony Obin, who has some further revelations on this, that gold smugglers are currently using neighboring Togo to divert gold proceeds from the legal mining sector into the country for shipment. That's a startling revelation that we'll be delving into very shortly when he joins us. But let's speak to the executive director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Mr. Ben Boache, and ASAP has been doing some work on this. Mr. Boache, thank you for your time here on NewsNite. The figures involved seem to be pretty scary. Billions of dollars of unaccounted for monies that we're supposed to make from gold but cannot be accounted for. But countries are confirming that they've received that equivalent in gold in their countries. What's happening?
Yeah, thanks, Evan. I think it speaks to our inability to actually track how much gold is produced in Ghana, and also the porosity of our borders, which allows these leakages to happen. So it's an indictment on our, border control agencies. We did some work which even showed that there are actual cartels, agents who operate across the West African region, and they have contacts at our port where at any particular point, if they identify the loophole, then that becomes the transit point, for trading our gold. So we have to look at how we can strengthen our borders, and also be able to account for what is actually extracted from the ground. If we are not able to account for how much gold the companies are producing, then it becomes difficult for us to even trust. Because if Ghana even strengthens its borders and it finds its way out into any West African country, they can still ship it from there. So the strategy is to target how much gold is actually produced, including the small-scale mining, which is also significant. That constitutes about 30%, but we don't even know how we come by that number. So you can imagine the number of people who are doing galamsey and other unapproved mining in Ghana. All those gold becomes very difficult to actually account for, especially when the borders are also porous.
Just joining us on the line also, Mr. Bache, kindly hold the line for me. On the line right now is the former Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, Mr. Tony Obeng. Mr. Tony Obeng, we're talking about significantly huge amounts of gold here. And from what we're hearing from Ben Boakye, it appears that people are smuggling gold out of the jurisdiction into other countries. You are pinpointing that Togo, it looks like one of those routes where the gold is being smuggled through?
Well, we picked the signal at a point in time that there was what one would call a re-exporting of gold from countries that would not be defined as gold exporters or gold producers. So that was something that really caught our attention. So at that time, we had a couple of meetings with the customs for an explanation of what signals we were picking. But let me say this. I mean, prior to the establishment of the PMMC and even the liberalization of the buying and export of gold, there were countries like Ivory Coast and Togo who were not producing gold at that time, but were exporting gold. So the whole essence of this liberalization of export of gold and all that was to stem that. And you could see that from the data that when there was this liberalization, the smuggling of gold from our jurisdiction to other places actually reduced significantly. And don't also forget that gold is a commodity that you can put in your pocket and travel with it. So,
but we're talking about $9 billion worth just between the United Arab Emirates and Switzerland. That is too big to imagine that somebody can.
I think that this has to be properly investigated. I don't know the extent of the investigation, but if this were to be true, then this is a serious problem. It's a huge leakage, especially in a country where we are struggling to have some money for development. So this is something that you want to really significantly understand it, because I've had the experience where there was an allegation of transfer pricing, and we in a setting when I was at the chamber tried to investigate. And our investigation actually pointed to a non-gold producing company. I don't want to name names. So some of these things, once they come up, we want to delve into it, understand,
But do I have on the line, Ben Boakye? It appears you've lost Tony Obeng. We lost both of them. But this, from what we're just hearing from Tony Obeng, something that needs to be investigated. Can you imagine what $9 billion worth of gold exports can do for Ghana? This is something that has gone out of the country, and there's absolutely no records of it. Gold, $9 billion worth, going out of the country, and there's no records of it with any of our official agencies. Ben Boakye is with me, still on the telephone line. Mr. Boakye, can you hear me, sir? We seem to have lost him also. Still listening to NewsNite on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll be interrogating this a bit more with the authorities concerned, the Mines and Energy Ministry, the Mines and the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, as far as what the government is doing about the problem, since we know that a problem exists. Send us your thoughts. 0244 340437. It's on WhatsApp.
Former President Jerry John Rawlings is tonight taking on Joy News for producing a documentary he describes as an attempt to put him and others in a bad light. Who Killed the Judges is episode 1 of Joy News' special assignment documentary on crimes that shook the nation. The documentary, which aired on 2nd October, reviewed details of how the 3 High Court judges and a retired Army major were abducted and killed in 1982. Justices Kwejo Ejapong, Fred Poku-Sarkodie and Mrs. Cecilia Cranting-Addo, as well as Major Sam Akwa, retired, were shot and killed during a curfew imposed by the PNDC. Former President Rawlings, in a tweet today, says history has been recooked and rehashed to make innocent people look murderous, except of the tweet coming up shortly. But first, here are highlights of the documentary.
I'd known Amakte Gwe as a very disciplined person, as a person who was not a liar, not a thief, a man who commanded a lot of respect, a very dedicated person. And for him to have been engaged in the misuse of soldiers, to do what he did when we came into office.
Sir, with respect, if I could draw you back.
Don't. I'm building it up.
You are building up?
Yes.
Okay.
For him to have been engaged in the misuse of good soldiers for what happened, and worst of all, to use the name of an innocent person, was most painful, not just for me, but for him as well.
Speaking in the Ghana language, Kwei said,
Mifi Isha, civilian Jimmy, Flight Lieutenant John J. Rawlings, Kekuju, Chikata, Kemifata.
I have done a wrongful act. I am a civilian. Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings and Kojo Chikata and I planned the operation. We planned to arrest the judges who had opposed the revolution. Captain Kojo Chikata was the mastermind for the operation. Kojo Chikata and Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings appointed me as a member of the Provisional National Defense Council government. As a result of whatever instructions they gave me, I am compelled to obey.
This account is endorsed by the NRC as it insists that without official backing, Amakte Gwe had neither the capacity nor the means to commit such a heinous crime. The observed behavior of Amakte Gwe at the prisons also confirmed that he knew that the operation was authorized by those who wielded power at the time.
Excerpts of Who Killed the Judges. Remember, this is the first part of Joy News' special assignment on crimes that shook the nation.
Well, if you listen to the former President Rawlings, his main contention and grievance is that there are other crimes that shook the nation that requires equal attention. Well, that is exactly what this is. There are other crimes that we know of, and that is why this is simply a part of a series of documentaries that we're rolling out, and we rightly call the crimes that shook the nation. This is just one crime out of many that will be focusing on the subsequent episodes. Now listen to the former president nonetheless talk about the fact that there are other more important issues that also needs equal attention.
A whole documentary on the killing of the major and the judges. An unfortunate tragedy that saw hard, swift justice done to the perpetrators, unlike the organized assault and killings of the Yana and his 39 elders, for which those perpetrators are yet to see justice. This is the fundamental difference. One group of 4 saw justice. The other group of close to 40 did not, and has not. We have rehashed and recooked history to make innocent people look murderous, and in the next breath using the same name to endorse yourselves because Rawlings has said he's cultured compared to his predecessors. This is vicious and callous political opportunism. We cannot reduce the harm and pain caused families and the whole country by turning this matter into a political media circus. In the meantime, our party has lost a few too many thinkers and strategists to see things clearly. We fall for traps set easily, rather than a focused fight to ward off this attempt to twist and manipulate the truth, which thankfully some started well. We are instead back to hang Rawlings because of the DG publication.
So you hear the excerpts of that tweet by former President Jerry John Rawlings. Some of your comments that you've sent in via WhatsApp on 0244 340 437. This one from Michael Amini says JDM needs to comport himself very well so as to enjoy the needed respect due him as a former president of Ghana. If JDM decides not to concentrate on his internal presidential race to appeal to the NDC delegates, how will he win them? How will he win political power this time round if he's allowed to lead the NDC in 2020? It goes on and on. And this one also from Kofi Sedi says this current NPP government is so clueless to the extent that they can't even manage facilities that were built and handed to them by former President Mahama. A classical example is how they nearly allowed the Ridge Hospital. Okay. And then he talks about the Commander Sugar factory as well. We have other messages also coming in via WhatsApp. And this one is from Wolanyo in Akwetia. And he says, NDC and Mahama campaign appointees can choose to call him any name or describe him with unpalatable and unpredictable words, but he's performed far better than the President John Mahama. I'm trying to get that difficult to understand, but we'll get you more. And later on, flip side also, we'll get some spelling and trying to understand certain words as was done on Weekend City Show. But we'll bring you that after business. George Rafe is here with the latest.
Hi, MFA. And coming up in business, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta rules out embarking on aggressive borrowing following the significant expansion of the economy and panic withdrawals in the banking sector. A myth or a reality? The Bank of Ghana data doesn't support these recent developments. The business news on NewsNite is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And Mark Auto Parts, distributors of Chevy cars.
In this part of the world, we rise early, way before the sunrise. We plan, we pray, we prep, just so we are a step ahead. We keep the conversations going to stay connected to family, friends, and business. They say, Agrobeswa Ifrianopa. Start your day bright with MTN Kokroko. For only 1 Ghana cedi, you can enjoy 400 megabytes of data and 30 minutes of free MTN to MTN calls every day from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. everywhere you go. Dial *138# to buy MTN Kokroko bundle now.
Nothing but the best, we stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop. We're custom.
Your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply. Joy 99.7 FM.
You're welcome back to Business on NewsNite. And we would not embark on aggressive borrowing just because of the significant expansion of the economy. That's the assurance coming from Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. There are fears that borrowing will shoot up again following the rebasing of the economy, which has expanded its size by more than 24%. This has reduced the debt-GDP ratio significantly, giving room for more borrowing. But the Minister of Finance says government wants to look at how they can grow the economy whilst reducing the debt stock.
Well, no, I mean, the rebasing certainly reveals the extent of how broad the economy is. But for us, Administration of Finance, the issue is always one of debt sustainability. And so it's not really an opportunity to increase one's debt. Certainly, it has come down considerably. But we look at that sustainability. What is our cash flow and how much can we afford with regards to interest payments? And it's still pretty high, so we're not looking to be adding on to it unnecessarily.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, government has been defending decision to install solar panels on all state-owned institutions in the country. The initiative announced by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is expected to reduce the financial burden on the Electricity Company of Ghana as a result of the inability of some of these agencies to pay its debts. We've been engaging Deputy Minister of Energy Orekwe Edu on this issue.
A lot of research has gone into renewable energy technology development. And today, we can see that provision of energy in the whole world is certain towards clean and renewable energy. So as a country, we are also availing ourselves to adoption of these technologies to bring a lot of efficiencies to the delivery of energy for both household and industrial users. This fair, a fourth one in a row, is a testimony of our readiness and seriousness.
And that's rather the Deputy Minister of Energy, that's Mr. Kujo there. Now, there appears to be some concerns about whether reports about panic withdrawals that have hit the banking sector is really a situation on the ground. Now, information that we've picked up from the Bank of Ghana shows the data rather shows the other way in terms of rather deposits picking up. So we've been trying to get some answers in this report.
Sources at the Bank of Ghana say data on industry deposits does not support recent media reports of panic withdrawals. Joy Business understands, rather, total deposits have gone up. The data available to the regulator covering banking operations from August 2017 to this year show that deposits have gone up. For instance, deposits went up from 53.7 billion cedis to 68 billion cedis, representing over 26% jump. For some, this actually raises a lot of questions about the impact of these panic withdrawals on the banks and whether funds are really getting out of the banking system. So with this strong growth in deposit numbers, the question is, which of the areas in the banking sector are these funds going to? Local or foreign? Or maybe a detailed breakdown of the Bank of Ghana data might help. Some have also argued that maybe the banks are not reporting their true financial position to the regulator.
And that was a business desk report. Let's still stay on the banking sector. And EcoBank is taking steps to offer total banking services to farmers in the country. The bank to this end has introduced a special service for farmers that would help collect data on their dealings to help improve their chances of receiving financial support from the bank. Dan Saki is the managing director of EcoBank.
Today, we want to leverage on technology to make sure that farmers no longer need to leave their farms to come into our branches to access financing. We make it such that anybody can open an account on his phone, be able to receive payments for whatever he has sold, be able to receive information about crop, be able to receive information about weather, and also be able to receive valuable advice coming from extension officers. We believe that this will contribute in no small way to improving productivity and also making sure that once production has been completed, the farmer is able to not just sell, but actually save his money. We are making it possible such that any farmer today, however micro the funds are, will be able to buy government treasury bills, invest his money whilst waiting for the next farming season.
Managing Director of EcoBank, Dan Saki, spoke to Joy Business at the just ended 2018 pre-harvest conference in Tamale, which brought together stakeholders in the agri sector. Now, the recent depreciation of the Ghana cedi is not only impacting negatively on prices of goods and services, but the earnings of companies. The Ghana Airport Company's profit for last year went down significantly by 43%. The company's earnings reached 87 million Ghana cedis compared to 153 million Ghana cedis in 2016. Speaking at the 6th annual general meeting in Accra, the managing director, John Atefua, said they are now looking at taking steps to work their accounts in dollars to help address this problem.
If you prepare accounts in dollars, then the cedi fluctuations and depreciation would not impact. Then we see a real value, because when you take loans in dollars, you use them to acquire assets. Then as the cedi goes down, if you know, let's say you acquire the assets $100, you bring it in, it's 500 cedis. When the cedi goes down and you review it, instead of 500, it now becomes 600. So even though you haven't spent the money, it will reflect as cost. An increase of 100 cedis, which will add to your cost and make you less profitable. But if you stayed in dollars, which of course the laws allow, we could then report realistically on our operations.
And that's the managing director of the Ghana Airports Company, John Atifu. And Emefa, some of you talking about Commander, some interesting news because actually Aliko Dangote has announced that he is going to venture into the sugar industry in Ghana and is planning to help us actually disclose this at a one-on-one discussion at the ongoing economics conference in London, saying that he's willing to invest, he's going to expand here. So maybe we don't know whether it's just bringing in capital or he's bringing the Aliko Dangote sugar refinery business here into Ghana. So we'll be looking forward to that. Also, he's announced that he's going to list on the London Stock Exchange, and we'll be looking forward to that one. The stock market year-to-date return has raised to 18.3%. If you have invested, that's what you've gotten since from January to date. Now let's look at Bank. It went down by a peso to close at 1 Ghana cedis, 16 pesos. EcoBank was up by 4 pesos and is now worth 8 Ghana cedis, 44 pesos. And that's all for business on NewsNite. Emefa.
Thank you very much, George. Let's take some more of your comments that you've sent in via WhatsApp. This one from Frank in New York says, we should let the sleeping dog lie. Showing documentaries of the past would only put the country in divisions and pain. This one from Pepsi Frimpong in Danseman. He says, Evans, why is Rawlings having sleepless nights over the documentary Who Killed the Judges? Is he angry the truth has been laid bare? He should not worry. The 34 women matter will be revisited. And this one from Gilanyo in Cape Coast says, Joy FM, good evening to you. For the sugar factory, the people of Central Region have to force the government to use it or open it so that they can get jobs to do. Simple. My name is Abusa Jackson. Sends that one in. And this one from Sherry Giovanni in our boss says, JJ Rawlings can't reject this documentary as portraying him as a murderer, but God in heaven will surely review the culprits and punish them. Some of your messages that we've received so far. You're still listening to NewsNite here on Joy 99.7 FM. We move on to some other stories now. And in Ifidrase, we're hearing that the police is still on the manhunt for some perpetrators of those who killed the 18-year-old. But as we wait to hear from our reporters, now that's the latest incident we're getting from the pro-NPP vigilante group Delta Force that has reignited the conversation about the threats of political vigilantism in the country's socio-economic life and security. The group on Sunday violently disrupted a constituency meeting at Tafu Pankrono, organized by the Member of Parliament for the area, Dr. Anthony Akotose. Now, this triggered some reaction from the National Commission for Civic Education, which described the phenomenon as a national crisis. Chairperson on the Commission, Josephine Nkrumah, at a news conference Monday, challenged the NPP to demonstrate its commitment to the rule of law.
Political party vigilantes have no place or space in our democratic culture. Therefore, the leadership of the NPP must demonstrate to the people of Ghana that the law applies equally to all.
Now, the Delta Force, among others, agitated largely over failure of the MP to get them enlisted in the country's security services. But the NCC says the continuous recruitment of vigilante groups into the security services is largely to blame for the increase in police military brutalities.
We had cause to go to the security agencies. When we had Constitution Week celebrations, we went to them, we spoke to them, because they are one of our key stakeholders that we engage with. And the thing that keeps coming back is these same political parties insist that their foot soldiers should be recruited into the security agencies. So when you recruit people who have not got the demeanor or the character for the security agency and to work with the discipline that is required in that service, you can only expect that once in the system, all they would do is exhibit who they truly are. And especially for someone who's not disciplined, who has the power of a weapon, it gets worse.
So you heard there the NCC chairperson, Josephine Nkrumah. Well, earlier today, Joy News learned of the arrest of 2 members of the Delta Force. Correspondent Kwesi Deborah joins us on the line. We're told that the police held a press conference to address the media on the arrest of these 2 members of the Delta Force. Kwesi Deborah was there and joins us on the line. Kwesi Deborah, what more can you tell us regarding the arrest of these 2 members of the Delta Force? It looks like we don't have Kwesi Deborah there on the line, but we'll work the lines and speak to Kwesi Deborah. But let's stay in the Ashanti region, Evans.
Well, police in the Fijase in Ashanti region are on a hunt for 2 suspects linked to the murder of a final year student of a Fijase Senior High Commercial School. It followed the arrest of 4 current and 2 dismissed students of the school. Final year business student Derek Ajay was stabbed in the neck with a pair of scissors and later died at the hospital about 2 weeks ago. He's said to have sneaked out of campus with a friend to watch football outside when unknown persons attacked him. Now, District Police Commander Superintendent Dasari Bediako tells Joy News the suspects and the accomplices conspired and robbed the deceased and other students. Ohim Interior has more in the following report.
The suspects in custody are Thomas Apia, Bright Ose Dankwa, Koku Asamoah, and Otukwasi Emmanuel alias Lincoln, all of them aged 20. Otu was arrested on Thursday with the support of Fijase police. The rest are teenagers Samuel Opondia and Bright Osu Echampong. They had entered the school compound through unapproved routes, supposedly to visit their girlfriends. Police say the 4 current students called and alerted their accomplices about the presence of some colleagues outside the main walls. According to Superintendent Asarabediakon, the deceased struggled with his assailants who had ordered him to surrender money on him. He was eventually overpowered and robbed of 5 Ghana cedis, while a friend also lost 2 Ghana cedis.
They came with a young man by name Opanka. They came to the school and 2 of their friends went to the guest dormitory. So whilst there, one of the students, who is a suspect in our custody, called and told them that 2 students were coming out, so they should attack them and take 2 and alias Lincoln and then Isian accosted the 2 students. They had 2 CDs from one and 5 CDs from the other, the deceased. And then the deceased, before they took the money from him, struggled. And in the process, one of them stabbed him on the collarbone. They are all students. Among the 5, one was a student who was dismissed.
District Commander Superintendent Asarabediako says the 2 fugitives mean a lot to police investigations.
We doubled up our efforts to get other perpetrators, and we had 3 people we were pursuing. So far, we were able to arrest 1, who is Emmanuel Otu, alias Lincoln, aged 20 years. And we succeeded through the collaboration we made with the Fijase police. We had him on Thursday. He's very important because he and then Isian were the people who accosted the deceased, and then one of them stabbed the deceased. So he's very important.
From Fijase in the Ashanti region for Joy News, Ohim Interior reports.
Okay, so you heard on him Interior's report. Then let's go back to the arrest of the 2 Delta Force vigilante group members. And my colleague Kwesi Deborah, I'm told, was at that press conference addressed by the police, and he joins us on the line. Kwesi Deborah, we're asking you earlier to tell us more about this arrest of these 2 Delta Force, personnel by the police. What more has the police been saying about it?
Hello.
Hello, Kwesi Deborah.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, if you can hear me, Kwesi, I was asking you to tell us a bit more about the arrest of these 2 Delta Force personnel by the police.
Yes, I spoke with the deputy communication, the deputy PRO of the regional command, and that is Corporal Prince Dobache, and he says they arrested 2 guys. These are Paul Atau, he's 49, and Richard Yalbrefo, and he's 51. And they were picked up at Tapo Pankono, and according to the police, they've been charged with conspiracy to commit crime, to wit rioting, and also rioting. And so they were expected to arrange them before court today, but from what we're hearing, they are now making arrangements so that tomorrow the court session will take place.
Very well. That's Kwesi Deborah there giving us the latest from that arrest. And it's time now for the latest from the world of sports. Hans Mensah Ando is in the studio.
So we're still waiting for a decision from FIFA on the suspension of Sierra Leone to see if that game between Sierra Leone and the Black Stars will be coming on. But FIFA earlier today rejected an appeal from the Sierra Leone Football Association to temporarily lift the ban on the country to enable them play against the Black Stars on Thursday in an African Cup of Nations qualifier. FIFA gave Sierra Leone a 5 p.m. deadline today to reinstate President Aisha Johansson and General Secretary Christopher Kamara or forget about playing the game. The World Football Governing Body is yet to come out with their final decision. But that notwithstanding, the Black Stars have been training in Kumasi in anticipation for the game. Here is spokesperson of the Normalization Committee, Dan Kwekuyabo.
After the joint communique by the FA officials of Sierra Leone and the government, we thought the umpires has been settled until FIFA issued a release that they are not satisfied with the arrangement and that they want the old FA fully reinstated. They've given Sierra Leone up to 5 p.m. today, so we're looking forward to a response from them and hopefully FIFA. But we are ready for the match on Thursday.
We've gone beyond 5 p.m. Have you not heard anything at all from the Sierra Leonean Football Association?
To be honest, because of the training session, I'm yet to follow up and cross-check.
A spokesperson for the Normalization Committee, Dan Kwekuyabo. That's your sports, MFR.
Thank you very much, Hans Spencer Ando. Evans, let's go back to Kumasi. You know, Love FM is currently hosting the high school debate. And Armed Forces Senior Technical School has made it to the semi-finals of the Love FM high school debate after defeating St. Monica Senior High School. The all-female contest saw Armed Forces speak for the motion, mix halls, a remedy for indiscipline on campuses, which St. Monica's opposed. Kwesi Debra has the rest of the story.
The barracks ladies caused an earlier upset to establish themselves as a force to reckon with by eliminating Prempeh College. Occultism and hooliganisms formed basis for argument by armed forces.
Mixed sex halls are hubs for decency and discipline. The check. According to a recent survey by Yen.com, which was posted on the Ghana web on the 10th of October 2017, the first 3 halls noted for notoriety are all single male halls, specifically Katanga, who without competition occupies the first position, followed by the Vandals and Casper students. And students of these halls feel proud of this negative status.
It's virtually some sort of defense mechanism to protect and guard against themselves these hoodlums. It is a trite knowledge that Commonwealth Hall almost always invades the territory of Mensa Saba Hall. The check. A similar situation befell Ogwa Hall in the UCC when Konti boys moved from Kumasi to UCC for a ritual to be performed and ended up attacking them, which situation got one student stabbed and eventually paralyzed.
St. Monica's were of the view universities are hiding behind lack of infrastructure to implement such policies.
These differences can also extend to the immune differences, hence creating serious effects on one of the sexes.
KNUST into an all-girls institution. Secondly, the chair, my opponents may try to argue that these halls should be changed due to so much conflict between them. But if this is between boys, what do you think will happen when girls are included? In our society, boys are not shy of girls and will not mellow just because a little or more girls are added into their halls. In fact, these boys will try and intimidate their girls, making them feel inferior. While there are a group of people, there will always be indiscipline. Whether mixed or single-sex halls, you will always find indiscipline.
61 for armed forces and 57.
In one of the closest decisions in the contest, Armed Forces bagged 225 points against 223 for St. Monica's.
You have Kwesi Debra's report. I miss my old school days, though. But away from that, we've been talking about it on Top Story a while ago. It started as a mere political campaign strategy, only aimed at outdoing one another in the lead up to the 2016 election. That's when you heard heated exchanges and name-calling between then-President Mahama and NPP running mate Mahmoud Bawumia. Fast forward to almost 24 months into the administration of the NPP, where Bawumia is now vice president and Mahama staging a possible comeback. It doesn't look like the exchanges will stop anytime soon. In the following report, we'll take a look at this ongoing war of words between the two.
Once upon a time, 2 men from the northern region towns of Bole and Walewale met on the 2 opposing sides of Ghana's political battlefield.
Our economy from the throes of economic mismanagement.
We will remember the almighty incompetence.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was partnering Nana Akufo-Addo to unseat President Mahama. President Mahama fired back, saying he would not take driving lessons from a man who had never held a steering wheel.
They told all their communicators, anytime you mention Mahama or NDC, say incompetent. So you hear Bawumia and say incompetent Mahama administration, incompetent You've never held any responsibility anywhere near presidency before. You don't know what it is like to be president.
The elections came and the positions of the two men changed. Dr. Bawumia now had the requisite qualification to criticize Mahama.
Former President Mahama can now accept criticism from me, since by the grace of God I have now occupied the office of Vice President of the Republic.
But it was John Mahama who would have the upper hand.
It is easier to give political lectures on the economy than to manage the economy. Any economics lecturer can give lectures on the economy, but not every lecturer can manage the economy.
Well, it appears Dr. Bawumia has made a vow to himself never to let any of John Mahama's jabs go without a response.
I hear the incompetent one says he wants to come back. he wants to come and do more damage. As if he didn't do enough damage. Well, we are waiting for him.
Dr. Bawumia did not mention a name in his response, but the three speakers say Ekutia Bia Niminura. As the race to election 2020 gains momentum, and there's a possibility that Dr. Bawumia and John Mahama will sometime in future be direct contenders for the presidency, the best or worst of the two is yet to come.
And I really love that song that ended there. Of course I do. And of course, this is playing out quite seriously. It's a funny side to it, but there's a very, very serious side to what is happening between the two. It's now time for Flip Side. Well, MF, so there's some words that are pretty difficult to understand. You know, I mean, when I was growing up, one of the words I still can't pronounce it. Don't laugh if you hear. I think it's conflagration or something like that. You know, you know what I mean? You can say it properly. Okay, so it played out on the Weekend City show this past weekend, and in studio comedians Langabel and Ruben react some tough words and asked to sort of break down what it means.
When we say abrogate, to abrogate, what do you understand by that?
To abrogate.
Yes.
Hey, to abrogate, which means I have to open my gate to people. To go to school. Oh, Charlie, let's speak it now. Abrogate.
Yes.
I have to open my doors to people to always to come and visit me.
Your word is expunge. When we say expunge.
Expunge means I should take my sponge to bath.
Langby.
You say you teach me my own. Now you are out of coverage here. Oh. Is it sponge to bath or sponge to
expunge?
Expunge.
EXPUNGE.
Expunge means that the soap you put your, you know, you have some dish when you are washing. Soap dish. Yeah. That's a expunge.
Expunge means to cancel or remove. Your word is exchew.
Exchew. Chew. You also have to chew my chewing gum. Chew means that I should chew my chewing gum with my mouth.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty difficult to decipher these meanings. But that's it for NewsNite. MFA, you were trying to help me with the pronunciation of the word I always struggled since I was a kid.
Conflagration.
Say again?
Conflagration.
Again?
Conflagration.
Oh, it's too fast. Take your time. Do it gently.
I won't.
My name is Evan Spencer.
Geek Squad is up next. You know, there was a hacking on Facebook. And
there was.
Talking
that's why I was locked out.
Yeah, you were. So we're talking social media. All your questions, they have answers to it. Is the Geek Squad coming up next. Please stay.